Welcome back to Ejimi Media, your source for weekly news on some of the most important stories from Africa and the diaspora. We begin in Ethiopia, where tensions are rising once again. Between 2020 and 2022, Ethiopia was devastated by a civil war known as the Tigray War. The conflict was between the national government led by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, or TPLF, and left at least 500,000 people dead. At the heart of the conflict was power. For nearly 20 years, the TPLF had dominated Ethiopia's national government. But after losing that influence, many in the Tigray region felt sidelined, which helped spark the war. In 2022, a peace deal known as the Pretoria Agreement brought an end to the fighting. It created a temporary government in Tigray meant to stabilize the region and rebuild after the war. But that fragile peace is now under threat. In May, the TPLF removed the temporary government and reinstated its own leadership, the very same leaders that were in power during the war. The TPLF claims the national government violated the peace agreement by extending the temporary president's term. That claim hasn't been independently confirmed, but the temporary government has refused to step down. Now, there's two rival governments claiming authority in Tigray, and tensions are growing. Ethiopia's federal government now accuses the TPLF of preparing for another war, and alleges that they are working with Eritrea, a longtime rival of Ethiopia, and forming alliances with other armed groups inside the country. The TPLF denies these accusations, saying it is not rearming or coordinating with outside forces. But reports from human rights organizations suggest the situation on the ground is worsening. There are claims that young men are being forcibly recruited into armed groups. They're being taken from public spaces and pushed into military service. At the same time, Ethiopian media reports that government drone strikes have targeted TPLF vehicles near the Eritrean border. All of this points to a dangerous reality. A country that has already suffered so much could be on the brink of conflict once again. One thing to be clear on, though, is that this is not black and white. Abiy Ahmed's government has its own controversies, and the TPLF seems to be aspiring to return to power without participating in the democratic process. The first war hobbled the nation's economy, and it's uncertain if they can handle another conflict. For those in the diaspora, it's necessary to stay aware about this and be vocal about avenues for peace, especially as tensions rise again. Stay tuned as we continue to watch the situation unfold. Next, we head to the Caribbean, where Jamaica is revisiting a major constitutional question. The country gained independence from the United Kingdom in 1962, but today, the British monarch remains the country's official head of state. But now, that could change. Jamaica's Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Delroy Chuck, is urging Parliament to move forward with plans to make the country a fully independent republic. This idea isn't new. Calls to remove the monarchy date back decades. But in 2022, the government set a goal of becoming a republic by September 2025. That timeline has now been delayed, though. The issue isn't whether Jamaica should become a republic. Both major parties agree on this, but the disagreement is about how to do it. One key question is the final court of appeal. The Jamaica Labour Party wants to keep the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, which is located in the United Kingdom, as the nation's highest court. But the People's National Party wants to replace it with the Caribbean Court of Justice, which is based in Trinidad and Tobago. They argue that Jamaica's legal system should be fully independent. Until that disagreement is resolved, progress will likely remain slow. The disagreement is a bit peculiar because while both sides want to detach from the United Kingdom, the Jamaica Labour Party wants to keep its highest court there. The push for a republic reflects a larger movement across the Caribbean. This movement is focused on self-governance and breaking the final ties of colonial rule. So to argue to keep the nation's court in a former colonizer's country seems to go against that very movement. This is a hot topic, though, especially for Caribbean nations, so we'll be sure to keep an eye on it as things move forward. Finally, we turn to a story that highlights more controversy in global sports. Omar Artan was set to make history as the first Somali referee to officiate at the World Cup. But that moment never came. Artan was denied entry into the United States, with officials claiming he was associated with suspected members of terrorist organizations. The decision sparked backlash. In Somalia, Artan was welcomed home as a hero. Many saw the denial as unfair and a sign of broader challenges faced by people from Africa and other developing nations when traveling internationally. But there's some good news here. Artan has since been selected to referee in the European Super Cup, one of the top competitions in world football. Still, his experience raises larger concerns. As the United States prepares to host major international tournaments, questions are growing around access. Athletes, officials, and fans from parts of Africa and the Caribbean have reported difficulties entering the country. This especially should be the case for global events meant for the participation of countries around the world. So, while Arton's story may have had a positive turn, it highlights an issue that won't disappear anytime soon. That's it for this week. Tune in next time as we continue bringing you stories from across Africa and the diaspora. If there's a topic you want us to cover, let us know in the comments. Our goal here is simple. Make information about our communities accessible to everyone from the perspective of the people we report on. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support the channel. See you next week.